Welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you can all join me again today, where it's all about collecting physical media from all over the world, 4Ks, Blu-rays, and DVDs. And today I've got a really exciting one for all of you. This is one of my favorite childhood movies, and I honestly hadn't seen this in several years. And I've owned the original release, but they just came out with a brand new restoration, remaster of this movie, and I've got a lot of exciting things to go over with you about this. So today we're going to be deep diving into Flight of the Navigator, the complete 4K restoration and scan on Blu-ray. And this one's such an interesting release, and I will tell you that there are so many exciting things about this release that you're going to really want to know about, because as a collector, a film collector, cinema fan, you're going to want to own this disc, especially for what they've done to it. So we're going to deep dive into this, but at the same time, we're going to be going into and comparing it to the original release that Second Sight did many years ago. And this is the original 1080p HD scan that's been out for many years. And there's a lot of interesting differences between the two, and there's a lot of things you're going to want to know about why they did this, why they did the upgrade, why they went through this. And they actually worked with the original director, Randall Kleiser, to actually do the new 4K restoration and scan on this. And let me tell you, it's a looker. And I was definitely impressed. And we'll get into my review score and my thoughts later on in the review as far as that goes, so make sure you stick around for my review score. But we're going to deep dive into both of these, give the comparison, and I'm going to go through a little bit about the movie, because this is my favorite childhood movie growing up. I went to this movie probably 3 or 4 times in theaters, and then on top of it, when it did come out in the rental store, my mom would rent it over and over for me. And it has a special place in my heart. It is by far the quintessential 80s childhood movie for me. And maybe you all have one that sticks out in your minds, but this is it for me. Flight of the Navigator by Disney was my #1 movie. I loved Tron at the time as well. I loved Tron growing up, but Flight of the Navigator was by far my #1, and it still is to this day, and it holds up incredibly well. The special effects that were done in it was very interesting at the time, because Disney, and when they actually did this film, it was one of the first times that CGI special effects had been used to create morphing effects, like when the stairs came out of the ship and things like that. It'd never been done in any movie previously before that. So that's where Flight of the Navigator was such an interesting thing. And this restoration, they go back and actually restore a lot of the colors and saturation and different elements that had gotten either damaged over time or weren't done correctly on the home video releases. And it's a drastic difference between this set and the original set that Second Sight released. And I do have some information, so that way most of you know this right off the bat. This new release is 100% region free. So what that means is, even though it is released in the UK by Second Sight, the actual disc itself is 100% region free. And it was nice because on the back, they actually even printed region free right on it, which is pretty rare. A lot of companies don't even print region free on them. But I did appreciate that Second Sight took the time to make sure that this Disney release was made so everybody across the entire world could buy this and collect this. So, just so you know, this release is 100% region free. You can buy it, collect it, and you don't have to worry about playing it in any Blu-ray player. There's no speed up, slow down problems. They did a phenomenal job with mastering this disc. Now, before we get into the rest of this, I do have something I want to cover real quick with all of you, so make sure you stick around, because I've got a lot of exciting information to go over about this set. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to give this video a like. Click that subscribe button right down below and the bell notification right next to it. That way you don't miss out on any of this exciting content from any of these releases from all over the world that I let you know about, whether it's region free and you can add it to your collection, especially about a lot of these that most people just don't know are available and are hidden and unknown releases. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, the bell notification, and give this video a thumbs up. And you can always follow me on my Instagram or my Facebook account, which is In Search of Physical Media. Same name as the channel. You can follow me on both of those. I give some extra content, some hidden things I get in, and little bits of reviews as well. So make sure you follow me on there. And as always, all of the links for everything I talk about, including both of these Blu-ray releases of Flight of the Navigator, will be listed down in the description section right below this video. And I always post those right down in the description section below. That way it makes it nice and easy. You don't have to go out there and try to search and find it. It's right down there. You click on it, and that way you can buy it and add it to your collection. So as always, those will be listed right down in the description section below this video. All right, let's get right back into this video. We've got a lot to cover here. Getting back into Flight of the Navigator here. Now, this was released back in 1986 by Disney in the US, and this is a Walt Disney film. And when you actually play the film, it comes up with the Walt Disney logo and everything, because this is a Walt Disney release. But Walt Disney has not done the remaster, restoration, or anything. This was all done by Second Sight, and they've done a great job with it. Now, Flight of the Navigator is a sci-fi action adventure. I mean, 80s kids action adventure. I hate to call it a kids movie because, to be honest with you, it still ranks as one of my all-time favorite sci-fi movies. I think the set pieces and what they did with it, the acting in it is phenomenal, and the story is great. So I hate to call it a kids movie, but at the time, that's what it was kind of geared towards, but holds up great for adults now. The film is my #1 kids movie and #1 sci-fi movie when I was growing up, and it still is one of my #1 movies of all time. A lot of people didn't know some hidden things about it. So Sarah Jessica Parker is in it, and she's actually, this is one of her first roles she ever had in film. She had 2 movies that were smaller roles before that, and then she did this. And Randall Kleiser actually claims this was her first role, but it's actually not. The director thought it was, but it's not her first role. But it was her 3rd film that she'd done, and she's in it, and Joey Kramer's in it, and it's just a phenomenal growing up, just showing time passing. And I mean, it's got time travel and sci-fi elements, and if you haven't seen the film, you're really missing out on a wonderful piece of filmmaking that to this day is one of the best 80s nostalgia pieces of filmmaking. It also had one of the first of its time was a fully synthesized musical score. And Disney was the first one to do it with this film. And that's out there on the history records if you want to look it up. This was the first one to do that. So it's got such a great 80s soundtrack to it too that you're watching this and man, does it take me back. And it was such a great feeling to go back and watch this again recently. And my wife had never seen it, so I had her sit down and watch it with me, and she loved it. And so that's why if you haven't seen it, guys, gals, you've got to give this film a chance because it's a wonderful film. One last hidden tidbit about it. If you know who Paul Reubens was, who was of Pee-wee's Playhouse, he actually was the voice of the ship, the robot and the ship. And he actually is uncredited in it because he had his name changed to Paul Mall on the actual credits for the movie. That he didn't want to mess with his whole Pee-wee's Playhouse thing, so he took the role from Disney when they hired him, but then he wanted his name changed. But he's actually the voice of this, so that's a little bit of hidden tidbit that a lot of people didn't know. So there's a lot of big named actors and a lot of hidden things about this film, and it's a wonderful film. So let's get into this set here. Now, I love the cover on here. This is the new cover. Now, this is the old cover. This does have a reversible cover, and on the other side of this cover is this cover. So this was the original Second Sight release, and I'll give you some differences between the two as we're going through these here. So you do get both covers, so even if you like this original cover that they made, it has the reversible cover on the other side of this. So in the other side of it here, it has new artwork on the side here. Obviously it says Flight of the Navigator. Then on the back it has lists out everything here. Now there is some interesting things. It does talk about that this is a brand new Second Sight 4K scan and restoration supervised by director Randall Kleiser. And that's a big deal because you'll notice when I go through later on the screen differences, and I'll show you some differences between this set and this set screenshots to show you why there's such a big difference. And this is something I wanted to talk about because I just recently did the Donnie Darko review from Arrow. And I got a lot of comments from people that just don't seem to understand what the difference between a 4K scan restoration that's supervised by either the director of photography or the director themselves. And I get a lot of people complaining saying, oh, something either looked darker or lighter or the color changed from what they saw in a previous home video release. And that's where people get really confused, and I want to touch on that for a minute here because it drastically affects this release as well. So on Donnie Darko, Richard Kelly actually went back just like what basically they did with Randall Kleiser here to do the restoration. And they went back and actually adjusted colors, the tone of the film, the lights, the darks, and a lot of scenes in like Donnie Darko, that Arrow 4K, they actually darkened some of the scenes because when they had actually done the Blu-ray release with Arrow, he didn't supervise that and they actually lightened it too much. So that's where a lot of people complain saying the new 4K release looked darker in a lot of scenes and things like that. That was on purpose because that was Richard Kelly's originally intended vision for that film. It wasn't that Arrow did it wrong because it was supervised by him, the 4K, not the Blu-ray that Arrow did originally. And that's where a lot of people don't understand the difference. It's the same thing in this situation. there are some scenes in Flight of the Navigator, and I'll show you up above here, okay? So we're gonna show up here the original old release. That's gonna be this release. So Flight of the Navigator, that's gonna be up here. That's what this one's gonna look like, okay? Now I'm gonna show you over here, that's gonna be this release, and that's the new 4K scan. And I'm gonna show you several screenshots as we're talking here so you get an idea. But in the restoration on this, some of the scenes that when Second Sight did the scan of the original 1080p scan, this scan, they actually lightened it too much and took away some of the colors, the sepia tones, the blues, the hues that were intended to give it that feel that, as you can see with the colors on the front of this cover, it's like, you know, purples and blues and very 80s, like just feeling and look. That was the intended look of the film. When they did this scan, they messed up some of those colors. So this was the best that it existed up till now, and they messed up some of those colors. So when they asked Randall Kleiser to come back and work on them with this for the new 4K scan and restoration, he came in and went through what it originally was supposed to look like based on the original film elements, sitting there taking their time to restore it correctly the way it should look. And I like their new black case that they put on it, because the point of it is it's supposed to be, I mean it is, a 4K restoration and scan, but on Blu-ray. And it's an interesting one because as far as Blu-rays go, this is one of the best Blu-rays that I own in my collection. Just overall scan-wise, it looks beautiful. It's got the natural film grain. He did not DNR it out. So it's got the natural film grain throughout it, and there are some scenes that have some pretty heavy film grain because of the film stock that it was filmed on. They didn't want to DNR it out by basically making it too smoothed out, so they left it, and it does look great. The natural skin tones, the depth to the image comes out great, and for a Blu-ray, it does look amazing. And I'll give you some stats between the two while I'm showing you the screenshots up above, between the lights and the differences between it. And you might say in a scene, like for example, in here on the original one, that, oh, this scene looked really light and I could see it a whole lot better, but the colors were way off. On this one, there's a scene like where he's walking across the railroad tracks that I'll show you above here. And you'll see here how it's lighter, and he's going home across the railroad tracks, and it's kind of lighter, but the colors are off a little bit. Then on the new 4K scan and restoration, it's back to where it's kind of a darker image. It's supposed to be at night. It's supposed to have a little bit of a, I don't know if I'd call it a creepy effect, but it's supposed to be kind of an eerie effect. When they lightened it, it lost that eerie effect. So now doing the restoration and the scan correctly, putting it back the correct way it should be, it adds that little bit of like mystery and aura to that scene that it lost. And that's the same thing with Donnie Darko, just to reference that again here. That's the same thing with Donnie Darko. There was some of the mystery and aura that was lost when they did the restoration on the Blu-ray originally, and they didn't do it right. So that's why in the 4K, there are scenes in Donnie Darko that are drastically darker now than they were before. And that's the same thing they did with this. They restored it correctly in this release. This release, I won't be watching again because this one is so drastically better that there's not even a comparison. But I'll give you some stats on these discs here while we're doing the screenshots above here. So between the difference, this one was put on a BD25 Blu-ray disc, and it only has one special feature, and that's an audio commentary. This one was put on a BD50 Blu-ray disc. This one averaged 30 megabits per second. This one averages 37 to 40 megabits per second. Big difference. On top of that, audio quality, this one had 48 kilohertz, 16-bit. This one's 48 kilohertz, 24-bit. So again, almost double just in that sense, the audio quality. So the audio quality comes out way better as well. It does have English subtitles on this release. This one does have English subtitles as well. Now, aspect ratio, there is a difference between aspect ratio. On this release, it's printed on the back, talking about that it's in 1.771. The original aspect ratio for the film and the correct aspect ratio, which has been restored on this 4K restoration and scan, is the 1.851. That is the actual aspect ratio, and that's on this scan. This one had a slightly changed aspect ratio. Don't know why, but that's just the way it was. So this is the correct aspect ratio. So everything's been put the correct way for this amazing Disney film. Just to give you a difference between the two discs, if you're going to buy one, this is the one you're going to want to get. And it is the new release. And I have talked about previously on the channel this release. And I've talked about that this one was out of print. Second Sight just released this. This is the single set on its own. And I'm going to break this down here for you for a minute here. Now I talked about the back here and the special features. As I talked about on that previous release, this one, it only had an audio commentary. This one has a plethora of special features that blow the previous release out of the water. So this one has behind the scenes directing, new interview with Randall Kleiser, producing the Navigator, new interview with the producer, playing the Navigator, new interview with actor Joey Kramer, and that one's really good. It's a treat. Then you've also got Mother of the Navigator, the new interview with the actor who played his mother, Brother of the Navigator, from concept to creation, the special effects, the audio commentary that previously existed, it's on this. Then it also has the reversible sleeve with original artwork. Inside this, there's nothing inside it. It's simply your disc with the cover art on it. And I'm okay with that, and here's why. I was not able to get a hold of the limited edition set that came out of this, and I really wanted it. And I talked about this on my channel slightly before, that I thought I'd missed out on getting the limited edition of this new 4K scan, and it's been out of print. You can't get it. And the only way to get it is to buy it from one of those third-party sellers, and they sell them for $200, $300, $400, and I didn't want to do that. I really hate doing that. So I waited, and I'm very thankful I did, because Second Sight announced here about a month or two ago that they were going to release this, and it just came out in the last week. And I pre-ordered mine the second they announced it because I wanted to have it for the channel to tell all of you about, because a lot of you have asked me about this and I never got that other one to do the review. This one is the movie with all the special features from that limited edition set. It just doesn't have the book and the extra box and things like that. But the price on this is amazing. It's going to cost you for this set maybe around 35, maybe 40 bucks, but I've seen it on sale lately on Amazon, which I'll put that link down below in the description section below. It's been anywhere between, like, it was on sale for 29 bucks the other day with free shipping. So it's a great deal for this 4K restoration and scan. So I'll put that down there in the description section below if you want to pick this up. But the price of this is an amazing deal for a Blu-ray. And you do not have to have a 4K Blu-ray player to play this. And that's where a lot of people get confused as well. There is such a thing as a 4K restoration and remaster on Blu-ray, and that's what this is. So whether you have a 4K player or you have a regular Blu-ray player, you can own this and enjoy this 4K restoration and remaster because it's on a Blu-ray disc. And it's on a BD50 Blu-ray disc, and the bitrate and everything was great on it. The colors looked beautiful. If you can see above, as we've been talking about all the colors and things, it came out absolutely stunning. And as far as Blu-rays go, this is one of my reference quality Blu-rays now, that when I want to show somebody an old movie from the 80s, and again, you can't compare it to something that's maybe a modern movie from, 2020 that's got a full 4K and everything like that, because you're talking about a different time period. But for something that's a remastered movie from the 80s, this is my absolute favorite remastered movie from the 80s, and it looks amazing. The colors look amazing, and the restoration is great on it. But it still is the original LPCM 2.0 audio, and that's Dolby. So it does sound good, but it's not going to be room-shaking 5.1, and it just doesn't exist. The way that they explained it in the special features and talking about with the restoration, there wasn't any way, unless they went back to the drawing board to do it, and they just didn't have the budget to do that for this release. And to be honest with you, I'm okay with it, because what they did for the visual quality on it and the restoration, there was things in the old release like this one where you would get to areas where the screen had splits in it that you could see they tried to fix or things like that. It's all gone in this restoration. It is literally seamless and a beautiful, beautiful restoration. Now, the movie only runs 90 minutes, so it is a very fast-moving movie, but that's what kind of adds to the charm of it. The movie had NASA involved, this mystery, and this whole... Basically, in my opinion, when he gets to the end, he's a different person, and I feel like he aged like 30 years. And Joey Kramer, the child actor that's in this movie, did such an amazing job showing the time and just at the end of the movie that I have just been so drawn to this movie over the years. So as far as the channel goes, for my review score goes for this one's going to get a 9.9. And that's the first ever for this channel. I've never given a review score on this channel of any release anywhere close to a 9.9. This one gets a 9.9. The only thing I could have said is I wish I would have gotten the limited edition when it was available. It's not. This is the one that I got, and you can pick this up now. I would highly suggest picking this up. I don't even highly suggest it. I tell you, this is a must buy. If you are a collector, a film collector, you don't own this film and you have not seen this film, this 4K scan and restoration of this classic, amazing Disney movie, you must own this. Otherwise, you can't call yourself a collector, in my opinion, because this film looked that good, and I think we need to support it. And this film will end up going out of print again, so right now is the time to get it, so you're not one of those people like I was, where I missed out on that limited edition. Same disc, same set, it just had a book and poster that I really wanted, and I missed it. So now it's available. Now's the time for you to get it. 9.9 on this. I can't recommend Flight of the Navigator enough. It is my favorite childhood movie, and to be honest with you, to this day, after watching it again, I watched it right away again afterwards. I actually sat down and my wife and I watched it, and then I was like, I just want to start watching it again. So I watched all the special features and started watching some of the film again. I absolutely love it. Music, acting, special effects. There's nothing I would change about it. It's a perfect film in my opinion, and maybe you'll disagree with me, maybe you won't, but this film is my favorite childhood film, and I highly recommend it. 9.9. Don't waste your time. You pick this up right away, and you let me know in the description section what you thought about it. If you've seen this film, or you have not seen this 4K restoration and remaster, you need to do yourself a favor and get this treat of a film and watch it. I have been so excited to do this one. I've actually been itching to do this for a while since I got it, and I watched it right away when I got it, and I was like, I've got to make this right away to get this out to all of you, because I absolutely love the film, and I know I've said that so many times in this, but there's no way to explain to you how excited I was about this. So please let me know if you liked the film and if you've seen it in the 4K restoration, because this 4K restoration is absolutely beautiful. Now, I do want to touch on something else with all of you real quick. I always try to give you a little extra tidbit of something coming out. There's another film from my childhood that I absolutely love that I watched growing up, and it's getting a 4K restoration and remaster as well, and I will be getting that one in as well, and that one's a little hidden one. That's going to be coming out later this year. Once I get that, I'll be putting that on this channel, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of this. It's going to be a hidden release on The Never-Ending Story, and they're doing a full 4K restoration and remaster on 4K Ultra HD with a 4K remastered and restoration Blu-ray with it. And I'll be getting that in later this year. It should come out around July is my understanding from the manufacturer, what they've let me know. And that's what I'm going to be doing on this channel, so make sure you stick around. That one's going to be huge. I love that film as well. Now, doesn't rank up there with Flight of the Navigator as my favorite, but it's pretty high up there. I loved that movie, and that's another really great classic movie growing up. So that's going to be coming out here on the channel, and that will be both with the Blu-ray and the 4K. So again, whether you have a Blu-ray player or a 4K, this is the time to be a collector. I mean, things like what Second Sight are doing, things like what Arrow did with Donnie Darko, those are great. Those are things you need to pick up and add to your collection, and I highly recommend them. I'm excited to get The Never-Ending Story and see how that looks, so let me know if you're excited about that one, if you didn't know about that one coming out. I'm always finding hidden things that are exciting and coming out. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up for me. Click that like button down there. Don't forget it, that subscribe button right next to it, and the bell notification. Follow me on my Instagram or Facebook, and all the links will be posted right in the description section below this video, so that way you can pick up your copy. Let me know if you're going to pick up your copy, if you're going to support this release, and if you're excited to watch this movie, especially with the new 4K scan. I was so excited, I couldn't wait to do this video. I hope you've had fun today. I really enjoyed this, and I really loved the movie. Let me know if you fall in love with it and if it's a new favorite of yours. I hope all of you have a blessed day, and I look forward to the time we get to do this again real soon.